The clock read 4:47 a.m. Eastern Time on December 23rd, when the first ghost aircraft appeared on radar screens at Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. It wasn't real. There was no plane at those coordinates, but to the air traffic control system, it was a Boeing 737 at 32,000 feet. Transponder code 4521 descending through controlled airspace on a collision course with American Airlines Flight 1847, which was very real and carried 183 passengers. The controller didn't know one of them was fake. She issued emergency evasion commands to both aircraft. Flight 1847 banked hard right. The ghost plane didn't respond because it didn't exist. By 5:02 a.m., there were 14 ghost aircraft in Atlanta airspace. By 5:19 a.m., phantom planes were appearing on radar screens at 87 airports across the United States. Controllers were issuing evasion commands to real aircraft, avoiding threats that weren't there. Planes were being rerouted. Landing sequences were being disrupted. The morning departure wave, the heaviest travel day of the year, was grinding to a halt. 11,400 flights were scheduled for December 23rd. 2.8 million passengers were already at airports or in the air. By 6 a.m., the National Airspace System would have 5,800 aircraft airborne simultaneously over U.S. territory. None of them knew their navigation system had been weaponized. The attack didn't start on December 23rd. It started 91 days earlier on September 23rd, when a contractor working on the Federal Aviation Administration's next-gen air traffic control system uploaded a routine software patch. The patch was legitimate, approved, tested, digitally signed, but embedded within 3.7 million lines of code was a 4,200-line subroutine that did nothing. It sat dormant in the automated dependent surveillance broadcast system, the digital backbone that tracks aircraft positions in real time. ADS-B is how modern air traffic control works. Aircraft broadcast their GPS position, altitude, speed, and heading every second. Ground stations receive these broadcasts and display them to controllers as targets on radar screens. The system processes 6,000 position updates per second during peak operations. It's fast, precise, and efficient. It's also completely dependent on data integrity. If the position broadcasts are false, controllers see false targets. If false targets look real, controllers respond to threats that don't exist. And if controllers are responding to phantom threats, they're not monitoring real ones. The malware activated at 4:47 a.m. because that's when the first wave of morning departures begins. Holiday travel peaks during the 4:30–8:30 a.m. window when airlines schedule maximum flights to get passengers to their destinations. December 23rd is the single highest volume travel day in the U.S. aviation calendar. Every seat filled, every flight fully booked, every airport operating at capacity. And someone had just injected false aircraft into the national airspace during its most congested moment. By 5:30 a.m., controllers at 87 airports were seeing 200-plus phantom aircraft. The ghost planes appeared realistic. Proper transponder codes, logical flight paths, correct altitudes. But they weren't synchronized with actual traffic patterns. They created conflicts where none existed. Controllers issued evasion commands to aircraft, which created new conflicts with other real aircraft. The system was cascading into chaos. At Denver International, controllers diverted 19 inbound flights to alternate airports because phantom traffic made landing sequences impossible to coordinate. At Dallas-Fort Worth, 34 departures were held on the ground because ghost aircraft occupied the departure corridors. At Chicago O'Hare, controllers stopped accepting arrivals entirely, diverting 52 flights to nearby airports that were already overloaded. The ripple effects were immediate and system-wide. Aircraft burn fuel at planned rates based on expected flight paths. Diversions and holding patterns consume extra fuel. Every plane has a calculated reserve, enough for an alternate airport plus 30 to 45 minutes of holding. But when multiple airports close simultaneously, there are no nearby alternates. Aircraft start declaring minimum fuel emergencies. By 6 a.m., 147 aircraft had declared fuel emergencies. They needed to land immediately, but the airports they needed were the same ones rejecting traffic due to phantom aircraft. The situation was unsustainable, and it was about to get worse. At 6:04 a.m., the malware entered its second phase. The ghost aircraft stopped appearing randomly. They started appearing in high-density corridors, major approach paths to the 30 busiest airports in the United States. These weren't just false targets creating confusion. These were systematic blockades preventing real aircraft from landing. Los Angeles International had 41 inbound flights within 100 miles of the airport. All of them needed to land within 90 minutes. But the approach corridors showed dense phantom traffic, making safe separation impossible. Controllers couldn't clear aircraft for approach because the system showed conflicts with ghost planes. 41 real aircraft, 6,800 real passengers, running out of fuel, with nowhere to land. The same scenario was playing out at JFK, Newark, Boston, Miami, Phoenix, Seattle, San Francisco. Major hub airports were effectively closed by phantom traffic that existed only in the computer systems controllers relied on to maintain safe separation. By 6:18 a.m., 89 airports had stopped accepting arrivals. 412 aircraft were holding, burning fuel, waiting for approach clearance that wasn't coming. Another 290 aircraft were diverting to secondary airports that were now oversaturated. The national airspace was gridlocked, and 5,800 aircraft were still airborne with nowhere to go. The human impact was escalating rapidly. 2.8 million passengers in airports or aircraft. Most were holiday travelers, families going home for Christmas. But thousands were time-sensitive, patients traveling for urgent medical treatment, organ transplant recipients racing against viability windows, military personnel on emergency leave. Aircraft can't circle indefinitely. Fuel is finite. When a plane runs out of fuel, it doesn't glide gently to an airport. It falls. The glide ratio of a commercial aircraft is roughly 17.1, 17 miles forward for every mile of altitude. A plane at 30,000 feet has about 90 miles of glide range. If there's no airport within that radius, the outcome is predictable. 412 aircraft holding. If they exhausted fuel reserves simultaneously, projected casualties, 68,000, 84,000 deaths. The deadliest day in aviation history wouldn't be an attack on aircraft. It would be an attack on the system that guides them safely to the ground. But the immediate danger was only part of the crisis. The December 23rd attack wasn't designed to crash planes. It was designed to crash the air transportation system. Every flight canceled creates a ripple. Passengers miss connections, crews time out, aircraft end up at wrong airports. Maintenance schedules collapse. Recovery from a single airport closure takes 24-48 hours. Recovery from 89 airports closing simultaneously would take weeks. The economic impact would be catastrophic. U.S. airlines generate $270 billion annually. The holiday travel period accounts for 18% of annual revenue, $48 billion compressed into 3 weeks. Canceling or delaying 1,100 flights on December 23rd would cascade into 40,000 plus cancellations over the following week as aircraft and crews fell out of position. Projected economic damage, $15 to $22 billion. But the real cost would be psychological. Air travel depends on public confidence. The 9/11 attacks reduced passenger traffic by 32% for 3 years. Not because flying became more dangerous, but because people stopped trusting the system. A successful attack on air traffic control would shatter that trust completely. If the national airspace could be shut down by phantom aircraft, if controllers couldn't distinguish real threats from false ones, if the system could be weaponized against itself, then air travel wasn't safe. Passenger traffic projections after a successful December 23rd attack. 40-50% decline sustained for 2 to 4 years. Airlines would consolidate or collapse. Airports would reduce operations. The economic damage would exceed 200 billion, but at 6:18 a.m. none of that had happened yet. The attack was escalating, the system was gridlocked, and 412 aircraft were burning their fuel reserves. And NSA cyber analysts had been tracking the anomaly for 47 minutes. The detection started at 5:31 a.m. when an NSA surveillance system monitoring infrastructure networks flagged unusual data patterns in FAA communications. Air traffic control facilities were exchanging aircraft position data at normal rates, but the data distribution was statistically impossible. Regional centers were seeing identical phantom aircraft, same transponder codes, same positions, appearing in multiple locations simultaneously. An aircraft can't be in two places at once, which meant the data was compromised. Within 6 minutes, NSA analysts had isolated the false position broadcasts. Within 14 minutes, they'd traced the source to corrupted ADS-B processing code. Within 22 minutes, they'd identified the malware insertion point, a software patch deployed 91 days earlier. But discovering an attack on the national airspace is different from stopping it. The ADS-B system is real-time. Controllers depend on it for aircraft separation. You can't shut it down without making the situation worse. Turning off the corrupted system would leave controllers with no aircraft tracking at all. Even more dangerous than false tracking, at 5:53 a.m., 25 minutes into NSA analysis, the agency made contact with the FAA administrator and the Air Traffic Control System Command Center. The message was urgent. Your position data is compromised. Ghost aircraft are false. Real aircraft are in danger. Do not trust your screens. The FAA faced an impossible decision. Controllers across 87 airports were managing traffic based on corrupted data. Telling them the data was false meant they couldn't trust any target on their screens. But not telling them meant they'd keep responding to phantom threats while real aircraft ran out of fuel. At 6:02 a.m., the FAA issued an unprecedented national ground stop. All departures halted at every U.S. airport. It didn't solve the immediate crisis. 412 aircraft were still airborne, still holding, still burning fuel. But it prevented new aircraft from launching into a compromised system. At 6:08 a.m., NSA provided the FAA with a preliminary list of confirmed ghost aircraft transponder codes. Controllers could now identify which targets were false. But the list wasn't complete. The malware was generating new phantom aircraft faster than NSA could catalog them. At 6:14 a.m., the FAA made a calculated gamble. They instructed controllers at major airports to switch from automated ADS-B tracking to backup primary radar systems. Primary radar is older technology. It shows aircraft positions based on reflected radio waves, not GPS broadcasts. It's less precise, handles fewer aircraft, requires larger separation distances, but it can't be spoofed by false ADS-B data. The switchover was chaotic. Controllers suddenly had different aircraft counts. Some targets vanished, the ghost planes. Other targets remained, the real aircraft. Controllers had to rapidly reorient to different displays, different separation standards, different workload limits. At 6:19 a.m., Atlanta controllers cleared 11 aircraft for approach using primary radar. At 6:23 a.m., Dallas-Fort Worth cleared 8. At 6:27 a.m., Chicago cleared 6. The system was slowly, painfully recovering. Meanwhile, NSA cyber teams were hunting the attack infrastructure. The malware in the ADS-B system was sophisticated, self-modifying code that generated randomized ghost aircraft to prevent pattern-based filtering. But it had to receive commands from somewhere. NSA traced the command and control signals to a mesh network of compromised routers in 14 countries, each node relaying encrypted instructions to the FAA systems. At 6:31 a.m., NSA began dismantling the command network. They couldn't shut down the routers directly. Many were in foreign networks beyond U.S. jurisdiction, but they could inject interference traffic that disrupted the command signals. Without reliable instructions, the malware in the FAA system started malfunctioning. Ghost aircraft began appearing in impossible locations, overlapping positions, nonsensical altitudes. The false targets became obviously false. At 6:44 a.m., controllers across 87 airports reported that phantom aircraft were disappearing from their screens. By 6:52 a.m., the ADS-B system was showing only real traffic. By 7:03 a.m., the national ground stop was lifted. 412 aircraft holding in various stages of fuel emergency landed over the next 90 minutes. 0 crashes, 0 casualties. The attack had failed, but the margin was terrifyingly thin. Post-incident analysis revealed the sophistication of the operation. The malware had been dormant in FAA systems for 91 days, collecting data on normal traffic patterns, learning optimal disruption timing. The December 23rd activation was chosen for maximum impact, highest passenger volume, highest flight density, highest public attention. The ghost aircraft generation algorithm was adaptive. It created false targets that looked realistic to automated conflict detection systems. If controllers had remained dependent on ADS-B without switching to primary radar, the phantom traffic would have been indistinguishable from real aircraft until controllers attempted radio contact and received no response. By then, fuel emergencies would have been critical. Aircraft would have been attempting emergency landings at small airports not designed for commercial traffic. Some would have made it. Others wouldn't. Projected casualties if NSA detection had been delayed by 15 minutes. 12,000, 18,000 deaths from fuel exhaustion crashes. Projected casualties if detection had been delayed by 30 minutes. 35,000, 48,000 deaths as multiple aircraft exhausted reserves simultaneously. The actual delay between attack activation and NSA detection, 44 minutes. The margin between normal operations and mass casualty event, 44 minutes of signal analysis and statistical anomaly detection. And the attackers came within 14 minutes of achieving unrecoverable cascade failure. Forensic investigation traced the malware to a supply chain compromise. The September 23rd software patch had been built on a compromised development server. Attackers inserted the malicious code during the build process, then erased their presence. The patch passed all security checks because it was legitimately signed with valid certificates from trusted developers. The FAA deployed it to 87 air traffic control facilities because it came through official channels. A supply chain attack meant the malware arrived pre-authenticated. Systems installed the weapon willingly. In the weeks following December 23rd, the FAA conducted emergency audits of all air traffic control software. They found 3 additional instances of dormant malware in regional facilities, all inactive, all awaiting execution commands that NSA's disruption of the command network prevented from arriving. The December 23rd attack wasn't an isolated incident. It was one component of a synchronized campaign targeting multiple air traffic regions. If NSA hadn't detected and disrupted the command infrastructure, the attack would have expanded beyond 87 airports. The entire national airspace, over 500 controlled airports, would have been compromised. 1,100 flights on December 23rd. But the attackers were planning to hit multiple days. December 23rd, 24th, 25th, the 3 highest volume travel days of the year. The goal wasn't to disrupt holiday travel. It was to destroy public confidence in air transportation permanently. They nearly succeeded. The December 23rd incident exposed a fundamental vulnerability. Modern air traffic control is a software-dependent system managing 45,000 daily flights in U.S. airspace. That software has millions of lines of code, developed by contractors deployed through supply chains updated regularly. Any compromise in that chain creates an attack vector, and the attackers demonstrated capability, sophistication, and strategic thinking. They identified the optimal target date. They weaponized the position broadcast system. They timed the attack to maximize aircraft in holding patterns with minimal fuel reserves. They created false targets that looked real to automated systems. They came within 44 minutes of shutting down the national airspace during its most critical operational period. The attack vector remains available. Software updates continue. Supply chains remain vulnerable. The next attack is being planned right now. Learning from the December 23rd failure, adapting, improving. Somewhere malware is being embedded in infrastructure code. Somewhere development servers are being compromised. Somewhere execution timing is being calculated. And 2.8 million passengers are boarding flights completely unaware that 44 minutes of NSA signal analysis stood between normal holiday travel and the deadliest day in aviation history. The national airspace didn't collapse on December 23rd, but 412 aircraft came so close to fuel exhaustion that emergency services at 89 airports were on standby for mass casualty response. 44 minutes, that was the detection margin. And next time, the attackers will try to reduce it.